Welcome to another episode of Eat, Chit, and Dice, a fortnightly podcast about board games and sometimes food. I'm Kat, and with me as always is...
As always.
Both of us.
Yeah, Jared and John D.
I'm so glad to be here today. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. We're excited to have you too. And this week we're talking about giant robots.
Read the episode title.
Oh, it says I, Giant Robot.
Like iRobot, like
Yeah, we get that.
Isaac Asimov.
I didn't get it, but I do now.
Yeah, I totally got it, but my husband's like super into Isaac Asimov. So
Oh, yeah, I don't
it's
know
like read.
that at all.
I don't know how to read.
Whatever.
So I've never done one of these before. How does this work? I just talk into this thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
What do I say?
We talk about games and
Oh,
sometimes food.
Okay.
But really, John D does a lot of the talking.
I do.
That's fair. I found a box on the floor that says shock mount for the handy recorder.
Is it handy?
Okay, you're
It
cutting
says
that out, right?
M5.
we have Kat with us because
We invited her.
she's
Yeah.
an expert.
So, I'll just jump right in there and say why I wanted Kat to be a part of this episode.
She's an expert on all of these games.
Well, no, that's not the reason.
She is a giant robot.
Will you shut up so I can talk? God.
You know what? If she wants to out herself as a giant robot, let her do that
This
herself.
is why we had trouble playing the game. Okay, so
Wow.
we played a couple of games that were licensed IPs. And one of them was Power Rangers, which I have never seen. So I'm going to be able to talk about playing that game, not being familiar with the IP. Two of the games were Robotech. Kat has not seen Robotech, so she can kind of give us the same type of point of view on those.
Although she
So I
has
thought
agreed
it
to
would be
watch the first,
interesting.
just the first like 36 episodes.
That's
of
the only
Macross.
one you should ever watch. Ever. Like,
Yeah, I did see 2 minutes of an intro.
Yeah.
well, that's
Once.
pretty much tells you what's going on. So,
Kinda.
but anyway, but we can kind of jump right in there. So, we'll start with Robotech Ace Pilot.
Yep.
Which is a
Yahtzee.
well, it's got some Yahtzee type components. It's a dice game, and you're trying to, just like in Yahtzee, you're trying to get certain combinations of the dice. What's not Yahtzee is there's like this grid. It's a 3x3, 3x3 grid of like if with a 4-player game, there's like 8 tiles in each of them that represent the Zentradi ships. If you haven't seen,
I've been
we gotta
told
back
those are
up.
the bad
Yeah,
guys.
we should.
Yeah, let's back up.
We should back
All
up here.
So it's the year 1999. A massive alien spaceship crashes on an island in the South Pacific and just completely destroys everything that's around there. And over the next 10 years, up to the year 2009, humanity stops all conflict, ends all wars, and spends the entire global production capacity making parts for this alien spaceship and rebuilding it. But during hey everybody, we're almost done building it. We're gonna have a party, a 10th anniversary party. Something happens. The machines inside the spaceship start going crazy. A giant gun fires, and holy crap, there's another alien spaceship.
Yep.
And it's attacking.
And so the other aliens that end up being the bad guys are called the Zentradi. They're giant aliens. They look like people, but they're giants. And long story
green.
short, the ship does a space fold and ends up on the other side of the solar system. And it's not like it has like faster than light travel, so it would take them
Well,
like a long
it
time.
does,
To get.
but
Not like
they don't know how to use it.
Yeah. So the story is them traveling back towards Earth,
Yeah, it's
fighting these
Star Trek
aliens.
Voyager.
Okay.
But their ship turns into a robot.
Yes,
Their
the
ship
ship
turns
turns into a
into a
giant
robot.
robot.
Yeah.
But when it does that, it like all kinds of things get damaged. But anyway, so that's your basic idea. Now back to Ace Pilot.
It's from the 80s, so if you have complaints about that, take it up with the 80s.
So Ace Pilot is a dice game, like I said, where you are rolling dice to try to get different combinations to use different characters from the show and use their abilities to take out these Zentradi ships. And there's a 3x3 grid with a 4-player game. There's 8 tiles in each grid. And for a short game, you're trying to completely empty out at least 2 sections of that grid. I think a long game is 3. And in the game that we played this time anyway, honestly, we played the short game, but I think honestly, had we gone for the third one, it probably only would have been like 10 minutes longer.
No, it would have been one more turn.
Yeah, because we were really close.
There was 2 more piles, only had 1
Yeah.
each, so it would have been another round.
The long game really wasn't that much longer.
I mean, if you were playing with the goal of ending the game faster, sure, but we weren't.
We were
paying
actually
attention.
like,
we were like
No.
pretty
We
just
balancing.
I think we had fun. I like the game. It is not necessary. It's
It
a
could have been
solid.
anything.
Yeah, it's a really
Right.
solid game, and I enjoy it. But it's not like dependent on the IP.
Not
at
at all.
all.
No, I don't know that I learned much about the IP in the game other than like these are characters and you're trying to fight bad guy ships.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that was about it. I mean, I didn't learn anything about the characters. Like they had character cards that told you what they did, but it didn't tell you
Who they
anything about
were,
the
yeah.
characters. It said like he's a pilot, but I didn't know him from the next guy. So yeah, I agree. I felt like it kind of could have been anything
literally
that you're
could have been.
trying to
Anything.
Yeah.
fight anything.
I mean, it could have been
or
Smurfs
collect anything.
collecting, like,
Smurfing.
Yeah.
smurfing their way through life.
Smurfing some mushrooms, it would have been the same.
Yeah, it really could have been anything. I originally picked up the game because it was Robotech, and I had seen Strange Machine Games that makes the game, and Japanime, I think, partners with them on it. And I had seen them talk about it on one of the Gamma feeds, like the year before it came out, and I was like, oh, well, I like dice games, and I love Robotech, so count me in. So I picked it up pretty much as soon as it came out, and I've played it a few times, and I really like it, but it definitely doesn't have to be Robotech. It could be
But it was really
anything.
easy to learn. Like the rules were super simple. There were like 4 rules, right? Roll the dice, match the dice, try to get points.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
super easy. The end game was super easy. The turns were really fast because it's just rolling 5 dice. You get to re-roll them 2 more times and then you're done. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah, me too. So if you like dice games and you have friends that are into Robotech, this is a good one. Even if you don't know Robotech but your friends are super into it, or if your friends don't know Robotech but you really want to play this game, the fact that it's Robotech is not going to make the game inaccessible.
Exactly.
Or if you just like dice.
Yeah, it's a good little dice game.
Agreed.
I will say, compared to the next game that we're going to talk about, I don't think that the lack of theme hurt it.
No.
Agreed.
I do think that the abundance of theme hurt the next one.
There's a little bit of whiplash there.
Robotech Attack on the SDF-1.
And I'm going to disagree with you, and I know that we're going to argue on this one because I completely disagree with your opinion of the game. But so yeah, Robotech Attack on the SDF-1. It's by Strange Machine Games and Japanime Games, just like Ace Pilot. And this one is an episodic co-op game that there's like three different books, and each book plays through like 5 episodes. And so you're actually playing through the episodes of Robotech the Macross Saga. So this one, if you haven't watched the show, it's still, I think, accessible enough, but there are definitely nuances in this that you're not going to get.
Yeah, that's one way
Yeah.
of saying it.
I definitely learned a little bit about the show from it. So like Johnny was saying, each episode is like one round of the game. So the episode has kind of the general story arc of the episode written out there. It has objectives for what you're trying to do together. It has kind of win-lose situations, criteria there. So yeah, I do think your characters mattered a little bit more. What they could do mattered more. I got an idea of who the characters were a little bit from there. And you were saying like inside jokes and things within the character cards, which I think was really cool if you knew the game or you knew the show.
Like, for example,
that I didn't really get.
There is a special character card that is Minmay. And for those of you listening that have watched Robotech, you know Minmay is like the most annoying character in the history of all anime. And her card isn't she's not helpful at all. In fact, she hinders you in the game. Like, as long as her card's in play, it costs you an extra die to use abilities. And so she's just the worst, and she's even the worst in the game, and I thought that was just awesome. I loved that. But to explain the game a little bit, it is a co-op. There are a lot of moving parts in this game.
Yes.
So it's not one where you're going to sit down, read the rulebook in 5 minutes, and be playing the game.
No.
No,
And
3 hours.
I know. I don't suggest playing it with 5 people that all want to make up their own rules instead of listening to the rule book.
I will say our gaming group is a little bit more difficult to pay attention while
Yeah.
someone reads through. And I think we just don't have people that learn well that way.
Right.
I think we have people that learn by doing. I'm a learn by rule book type of person. But I know a lot of the other people in our group are very much well, let's just do this first round and see what happens. And then we'll learn what we were supposed to do or
Right.
weren't supposed to do after
but
that.
what we ran into was a lot of arguing over
Yes.
how things should be interpreted instead of just
Yeah, the rule book
listening.
wasn't.
The rule book was written fine. The problem was it was laid out in such a way that it was really hard. You had to flip around constantly, try to find things. And it really, I think, learning the game suffered a lot from how they laid out that rule book.
Agreed. I don't think there were rules in there that were worded weirdly or that were stated wrong.
Yeah,
Okay, with an exception.
for the most part.
But it definitely hindered okay, this is what we do in this phase. After 3 paragraphs of explaining it, it says, go to page 12 to learn the rest of it. I'm like, well, just tell me the rest of
Just
it.
tell me the rest of it. Yeah, that was
that was
annoying.
tough.
But basically, there's a lot of moving parts in this game. So there is a board that's basically space. It's got the ship in the middle and the different sections of the ship.
Think of it like Castle Panic, but
Yeah, it really does look a lot. And
Yeah.
and there's
Yeah.
actually
it plays like Castle
plays
Panic.
like Castle
Oh,
Panic.
that part of the
well,
game. That part of the game is very much Castle Panic-ish.
It plays like Castle Panic, but you put 4 more layers of game on top.
Yeah,
of it.
I mean,
Right.
I'd agree.
4 or 5.
So there are 3 different parts of a turn or of a round, basically, and it starts out with you have to figure out what the scenario or what the episode is, what your objectives are, and then you check the population that is in Macross City. And then you have to divide up those population between the players because that is going to determine how many action points they have to spend during that turn. So getting into the game at the very beginning, it was a little bit
that wasn't
fiddly
very
to figure
clearly
out. No,
explained.
it wasn't.
It was not in one place explained.
Yeah,
it was
correct.
explained. That rule that John D just said in 3 sentences was on like 5 different pages.
Right.
Agreed.
And I actually thought it was a really cool mechanic and I liked it, but it took us a while to be like, oh, okay, this is a lot simpler than we thought because it just, yeah. So you do that. Once you have all of those figured out, you go into each player's like action turn, which they have like each player has like 5 different things they can choose to do depending on how they want to spend their action points. And every single character has different things they do based on the kind of character. There's like pilots can do certain things. They can control the Veritech, which are the robot ships that the good guys
Yeah, they're airplanes that can.
transform into robots.
Yeah.
So each character has different things they can do. And another aspect that I think is really cool is there are actually 6 characters that come with the game. And you can switch out characters at the beginning of your turn. You can be like, oh, this turn, I don't think it would be great to have Captain Global. I want to have Ray Fokker. So you can switch out at the beginning of your turn.
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
There you go. So you get through that, but then the Zentradi have their turn.
The bad guys.
The bad guys.
Yeah.
And when the bad guys have their turn, you have cards. You look at the cards. The cards tell you what the different ships do, whether they
You have to decipher these runes, which
Well, you do kind of have to decipher the runes, but there is a resource card that I
Yeah,
thought was
there's-
pretty
there's a
nice about
reference
it.
Yes,
card.
the reference card was so.
I mean,
I like the game. I liked it a lot. I can see myself playing through all the episodes 100%. But with that said, it's not an easily accessible game. If you are not willing to sit down and really concentrate on learning a game, then it's not going to be for you. Like if you're not a gamer real hardcore and you're like, oh, I like Robotech, this might not be the game for you, even though it's really cool.
I will say this: there is I guess it's semi-official. It's been like blessed by the lead designer, but on Board Game Geek in the file section for Attack on the SDF, there's like a quick reference that a guy made, and both Japanime Games and someone from Strange Machine were like, "Hey, you did a really good job with this. Do you mind if we add some graphics to it? We'll give you credit, but we use this as like the unofficial quick start rules, which you should go look at this file."
Yes.
I might go get it and
You should.
get it, print it, and laminate it, and
Yeah.
put it with my game. But yeah, I really, really like the game. I 100% want to keep playing it. Was my first experience with it the best first experience for a game? No.
No.
There was a lot of arguing about how we all interpreted the rules. Two people that were playing with us, both Kat and our friend Troy, had not seen the show. I don't think Troy enjoyed the game at all.
No.
So I think Troy
He
was
disliked
frustrated. So
I didn't super enjoy the game either. As a huge fan of this property, of the Japanese version, the American version, we could discuss the pros and cons. Basically, they did a very interesting 80s thing where they said, hey, people like anime. How can we make the most money out of this? I know. Let's buy a bunch of cheap anime and slam it together Voltron style and make 3 different shows into one show. Whatever. I could talk about that all day. I don't think that my knowledge of the show contributed anything to my enjoyment of the game.
And see, I feel the exact opposite. So.
And you're allowed to feel that way.
Yeah.
I can't tell you that you're wrong.
Like,
I can tell you that I completely disagree.
Which is fine. I know last night Kat told me that she would 100% play the game with me
I would
again.
play it
will.
again.
So,
But as I have famously been quoted saying, I'll play any game twice.
that's fair.
I liked it because while it is a co-op game, the roles and the abilities that everyone had was unique.
I liked that
And
a lot.
so it made it important who you were playing for each episode. And I think we were so frustrated and frazzled with getting it set up. I think next time I play it, I will really take that more into consideration. And I
Same.
think some people that didn't enjoy the game maybe also didn't take that into consideration because it seemed like we played 3 of the episodes.
Right, which is
of
not
the
a full
5.
first scenario.
Right. But I think because
But at that point, it was like 4 hours after we started.
right, we were done mentally with it. But I think because like the start of any kind of action anime, right? There's a lot of fighting at first. There's
Right.
a lot of a bunch of people are attacking, like we need our fighters out there. And then the story comes along behind it and you need more the captain, you need more, a first mate or whoever she was and like technician type people. But the first at least 3 episodes were very much who can hurt the most bad guys the fastest. Well, we need to give them all the action
Right,
points.
right.
So I think that a little bit detracted from some people that were playing characters that didn't have a lot of fight the bad guy moves.
Yeah.
And I was one of the fight the bad guy
As was
characters. And so
I
it
got
was
to
really fun for me.
play-
I got to do a lot, but I can
got to
understand.
play Rick Hunter, which is the main character in the show, and I didn't pick him. We actually did
Right,
a random.
His
We
name's
drew them.
Hikaru?
No, it's not. It's
I was the guy with
Hikaru.
blue hair.
it's Rick Hunter. You were Max.
Max.
Sterling.
The guy with blue hair.
So anyway, Jared and I I have to say, in the history of since we started doing this podcast and started making sure, since we switched this format where we're playing the games in the last couple weeks before we do the episode, I think a
rather
lot
than
of
just trying
times,
to remember.
Right.
I think a lot of times, Jared, I hope you agree with this. A lot of times, you and I kind of
No.
yeah, bite me. So you and I often find ourselves in agreement on our thoughts on the game. This one is one of the few, I think, that we have completely opposite opinions.
Right. So for me, I would say if I believed in giving games scores, I would say this is a 5 or a 6. The reason is the rules themselves are not that complicated. The organization of the rules and the
God.
flow of the game is horrible.
Once you figure it out, I think if we had figured it out sooner and we'd gotten through those first 3 episodes quickly enough that we would have played through all 5, I think it would have, by the end of that 3rd round, I was like, okay, I'm invested now. I know what I'm doing.
Right, but to get the same
It
feeling,
took
you
too
could just
long to
play.
get there.
You could just play Castle Panic or Star Trek Panic if you want the space theme, or The Captain is Dead. They both have that same kind of oh gosh, guys,
But those
things
are
are
two.
getting bad.
I like the complexity of this game. Those are very simple games. I liked the complexity in this
I
one.
think this game was complex just for the sake of being complex. I think they had a game. They were like, well, what else? What else happened in the show that we can put in this game? Oh, remember that one episode where the shields didn't work and they had to use the trackballs, the pinpoint defense? Remember that? Remember, we should put that mechanic in the game.
I think one really important thing that we haven't mentioned yet, it comes with a model, a
Yes.
cardboard model
That does nothing.
of the ship
Yes.
transformed into the giant robot that does nothing but sit in the middle of the playing field, so I
Yeah.
couldn't see the other side.
When
I don't know what else it was for.
we
Maybe it was
finished-
for something else.
I think
but-
it's just supposed to show when the
I still think it should be the first player marker.
When
This thing
we
is
transformed at
8
the end
inches
of the
tall.
first episode, like I know what happens in the show. Before Kat read, all right, this is what happens. I took the model and I put it in the middle, and everyone was like, "Don't put that there. That doesn't go there." And I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." And then Kat starts reading like episode 2. Here's what happens: take the model and put it in the center of the play area.
Yep.
Yeah,
It does
think that
nothing.
It did nothing but get
Also,
in the way. It looked real cool.
I
though.
love the model. It's
Mechanically
really
in the
cool.
game, it didn't do anything. Like in the show,
Right.
you can't fire the big missile, like the big laser gun, if it's in a specific configuration. That didn't
actually,
seem to be in the
No,
supposed to
rules.
be able
in
to
this
do that.
game,
It
you
was
could
in
not
the
fire
rules.
that beam unless you were transformed.
But there was nothing on the board
Right.
or on that figure
There was nothing that
that
indicated
told
that.
us
Yeah.
that we could
but
do
the
that.
rules
other
did
than
indicate that you could
a line
not.
in the
But
rule.
if you didn't know from watching the show,
Yeah, I wouldn't have known.
you know, there was like a tiny
hadn't
little
read-
sentence somewhere that says like,
Right.
"Hey, by the way, guys, just don't forget, you can't do that."
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't have
and
known.
there is
Not that we did, but
there's a board called the danger board, and
There were
once
some
I
misprints
knew
on that-
there were some
on them.
misprints that well, because we had the playmat, and
Yeah.
the playmat
Yes.
there were a couple of misprints on the playmat, and we ended up having to just put the board over the top of the playmat, that section of the playmat. It was once we figured out how to read the danger board, I think it was a very well thought out board. But the problem is it's not intuitive when you're looking at it, and there is nothing in that rule book that explains it very well.
No.
No.
So it took us a while to go, oh, this makes total sense. Once we and that's another like failing of the rule book.
Yeah. And I think one thing Jared said last night, which I think held really true to it, is if you had played this from conception and done their testing of it,
Right.
that would have made a lot of sense. Because you would have seen where it came from and where it is
Right.
now, and you would think, oh, where it is now makes a lot of sense. But there was nothing intuitive. The iconography was nothing that made any sense.
There's some
all.
numbers that are different colors.
So-
There's some X's, some red
You
X's.
have to look at
You have
what
to-
they equal. They
right.
might as well have just put letters because
Like-
it meant nothing.
Yeah, it would have been what they really needed was a page in the rule book that specifically said, this is what every single thing on here
Yeah.
does. This
Yes.
is how you set it up. This is why this goes here. And it's all in the rule book, but it's all in different places. And so finally I was like, oh, guys, we did that wrong. Let's fix it. So yeah, that's another failing of the rule book. But again, I loved the game. I'm going to definitely play it.
I did
more.
not love it, but I would give it another shot for sure now that I understand it better.
Yeah. Well, that was a lot of talking
It was.
about.
A game Jared didn't like.
So I guess we could talk about a game that I do like, unless John D has any closing arguments.
Nope, I do not.
All right. Well, how does the prosecution rests? That's a sentence that you say.
Is it?
Okay. So moving on
Yeah.
to Power Rangers.
Yeah, you
Heroes
wanna do that?
of the Grid.
Yeah. Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid. I did not have a tab open for that because I wasn't ready. I didn't know that's what we were gonna do next. Yes, it's a game. You play as a Power Ranger. It's 1 to 5. It's 2 to 5 players because the solo thing is I think it was only in the Kickstarter. 2 to 5 players. You each play as one of the Power Rangers. If you don't know what Power Rangers is,
Yikes.
welcome to Earth.
I know plenty of people that don't know what Power Rangers
Right,
is.
no, but you, John D, have never watched an episode of Power Rangers, but you know what Power Rangers
Well,
is.
to be fair, it's because I had a kid in the demographic when it first started getting
Right.
big in the United States.
Okay, but
So
I think after the movie recently,
I think people
more
know
people
what
know what Power Rangers.
even if they don't know
are.
like who.
They know they're people in suits that
Right.
fight bad guys.
But I just saying
But-
that it's valid to say there are probably plenty of people that still don't know what they are because it's not like they're Star Wars or
For sure.
something that everybody knows.
I would be very surprised if there's a person listening to this podcast that does
Probably
not even
not.
know that does not know what a Power Ranger is, even if they know nothing about Power Rangers.
Probably not.
But they have heard, oh, Power Rangers, the guys in the spandex that do karate.
and have ridiculous monsters costumes that are really stupid
Yeah.
looking.
right.
Yeah. Anyway, Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid, is a board game based on Power Rangers. 2 to 5 players where everybody picks a Power Ranger and you play as them. Your goal is to protect the city of Angel Grove, unless you're playing one of the expansions, and then it's a different area, from, well, the gross monster suits that John D was talking about. It's fully cooperative. You have a shared combat round where you kind of decide how you want to how you want to handle the combat. You can, as a group, decide like, okay, the monsters get a turn, then we get a turn. Well, which one of you has a cool attack that can take out this next monster before he gets to attack? Okay, let's do that. You roll the dice. You look at the results. You'll either hit or you'll miss.
You have cards that show you, like, for for this ability of yours, you get to roll this many dice.
Mm-hmm.
And the dice remind me a lot of, like, if you've played Attack Wing or what's the Star Wars one? Star Wars X-Wing and Star Trek Attack Wing.
Sure.
Anyway, if you've played those, the dice remind me a lot of those. Like, some of them have one hit, some of them have 2 hits, and some of them don't have anything at all.
Yeah.
So the thing that I found really interesting about this game...
you can also, as you kill monsters, you level up your experience, and you can get your giant robot.
You might get your giant robot.
Get your giant robot if you kill enough monsters.
I didn't get my giant robot the whole time we played that game.
Well, we
I got
didn't kill
mine,
enough
and
of
it
the monsters.
helped everybody a lot.
Yeah, because
we spent too much time killing the big boss guys and not
I mean, we
killing
were
enough of
supposed to kill the big boss guys.
Yeah, but the way you get your experience points is you kill like the foot soldiers, and we were ignoring those and just going like, oh, well, in the rules it says if we kill the monster of the week, when it dies, all of the other bad guys go with it. So let's just ignore the bad guys.
That's not why I was going for the monster of the week. I was going for the monster of the week because they had like horrible damage effects that were going to kill us.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the little guys because they didn't hurt as bad.
Yeah,
Right.
but we didn't attack any of the little guys
because
they
didn't
go away.
hurt as much. I did not. I didn't care that they didn't go away or stayed. I honestly didn't even realize that.
Mm-hmm.
It was because the main bad guy's doing like 12 damage on a turn, and I was like, no, he's going away. There was one thing I found really interesting about the game, and that's the fact that there's no like turn order.
Right.
So,
well, there is a turn order, but it's the monsters take a turn, then the players take a turn.
So like,
yeah,
it's
but you can do
the
that
monsters,
in any order.
and then it's just the Power Rangers. So it could be monsters and then cat goes, monsters and then cat goes again, because we can be like, oh, the abilities that she has on her cards right now are the most helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
So it doesn't have to
that.
be each. I thought it was interesting.
I liked that for the most part. I think that sometimes gets into other players telling other players what
That
they
happened
should
a little
be
bit
doing.
too much in our case.
And that doesn't make it super fun for me. But I think the game is set up similar to that because there aren't turn orders. It's not like I ever have to have a turn.
Right.
And I didn't. The whole blast bad guy. I literally sat and read the rule book about a rule that we were trying to figure out and looked on errata and tried to figure out and did absolutely nothing. And it didn't matter at all. So I don't know that I loved that.
And that's a problem.
Aspect
Like,
of the game.
A player could very easily get excluded if they don't have good cards out, or if somebody else has better abilities. So that's a problem. And this game, like most co-ops, really has it. I don't think it does a good job of mitigating the quarterbacker thing.
Right.
Like some co-ops have a way to kind of discourage that. This one, I think, like Kat said, it 100% encouraged quarterbacker players. And we
Yes.
had one, and
We had a couple.
yeah, we had a couple. And it gets annoying when you're just trying to decide what you want to do, and they're like, no, we're going to do this isn't. And I'm just like,
Johnny, have you ever seen Power Rangers? The Red Ranger tells them what to do, okay? If you have a problem with that, then you can just go off and make your own Power Ranger team with all pink Rangers. Because that happened, actually. It was called Power Rangers Pink. I'll let you borrow the trade paperback.
Not good.
pass. I like the game. I liked it. I don't think that the gameplay itself suffered from the fact that I wasn't at all familiar with the IP.
No, because you just, it is,
It's monsters on a map.
yeah. There's dudes on the map.
Yeah.
Your dude has powers. You roll the dice. Did you kill a bad guy? You did.
Yeah,
Cool.
so it didn't matter to me that I was playing the Pink Ranger. I could have been playing the Queen of England.
Queen of
and,
Hot Dogs.
You know, it would have been fine. It would have been any different.
I think ours was really cool because the evil Green Ranger came out as one of
Yeah.
our bad guys, and I
Yeah.
got super excited about that.
Well, and then
'cause
everybody had to
White Ranger
explain
is
to
the best
me-
Ranger.
Everybody then had to explain to me why there was a bad Power Ranger, because I was like, I don't understand why the Power Ranger's a bad guy. So
I tried to explain why the Japanese version of Power Rangers was different from the American version of Power Rangers. And I don't know that John D.
Well, see, I already knew that because
really
you've already
cared.
told me that a gazillion times, and you're right, I didn't care any of the times you told me about
I
it.
just wanted to tell you the story of Barai, okay? They were brothers, but one of them was better than the other.
Okay.
One of them decided to be evil and try to kill everybody.
Okay.
I don't
And
think
he
you
had a cool
had
sword.
to know that to play the
He
game.
had a cool sword.
He did. He had a great sword, but you didn't have to know that he had a cool sword to play the game.
And he had that cool, like,
But it made it really fun.
metal golden
So-
shield that nobody else had.
I would compare this game to the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
Yeah, very similar
I
idea.
Yes.
But different execution.
It is, but honestly, if I had the choice between the two games, I would choose Ninja Turtles every time.
Interesting.
I found Ninja Turtles to be a more rewarding gaming experience.
Okay. Well, so I will say this. The way that the games work is a lot different because in the Ninja Turtles game, there was that...
It was episodic.
it kind of played like a campaign game.
It did.
Yes.
So
It
if
was,
you,
yeah.
depending on how you did, you either got positive ending or negative ending, and then that carried over to the next time you
and
played.
I loved that about it.
That was really cool. The Power Rangers game doesn't have anything like that. It just has like, well, because if you think about it,
I don't think it can have
no,
something like
because
that.
I mean, with very few
Why not,
exceptions,
though?
the Power Rangers
'Cause it
show
doesn't
it
have
didn't
stuff
matter.
that
It didn't
carries
matter.
over. Right? Your bad guy for that episode never comes back
No.
again.
When you beat that
except
monster, he gets big,
the
he
2 or
blows
3
up.
of that season, and that's the end of
Yeah.
it. So there wasn't really a way to have an episodic play with the Power Rangers one because it doesn't really matter episode to episode.
Right. They don't
other
do
than
big story arcs.
giant story arcs, but
There's usually the way
Like
that
the
it
Green
works
Ranger.
is that, and again, I'm going to reference the Japanese show because it does, the episodes matter more in the Japanese version. You'll have a story arc that's 2 episodes long,
okay.
and then that will never come up ever again. And then you'll have this overarching storyline that maybe like 30 seconds of each episode contributes to the overarching entire season plot.
Okay.
You can't really, I mean, I guess you could do a campaign with the Power Rangers game, but
it
I
wouldn't be
felt-
as satisfying as the Turtles.
It would
I mean,
have to
I
be based
felt
on the
more.
comic.
I felt more invested in the
One-
Turtles version, in the Turtles
Absolutely.
game, than I did. Like, it's not that this game wasn't fun, and I would totally play it again. But I didn't feel invested in this, and maybe it's because I wasn't into the IP. But I was like, I just want to kill monsters. I wasn't like
Right.
invested in. Oh, we got to make sure we don't die.
Yeah, no, and I don't think this was a game that you really do have to get that invested in. It's not like the Robotech game where you're gonna play over and over
Yeah,
again and
yeah.
it's gonna matter whether you got the, rewards from the previous
Right.
episode. So it really is a lot lighter than that Robotech game
Yeah,
in that
it
you don't
is.
have to care about it. It's just, hey, this is cool. There's a lot of really, really neat figures.
a lot.
A lot. And if you know some of the Power Rangers, like Bulk and Skull,
Yeah.
have their, when they fantasize what it would be like to be a Power Ranger. I mean, those are models in there that you can play as those characters, and that's cool to somebody, but they would play it once probably and then be like, that was cool.
They did an entire expansion based on the, quite honestly, one of the coolest ideas that's ever come out of the Power Rangers universe. In the comics recently, they did a thing called Shattered Grid, where basically a alternate dimension evil Green Ranger who did not decide to be good and join the team had in fact taken all of the power from all the Power Rangers, and they did this like multi-universe crossover event in the comic. They did that as an expansion in this game. So you can have like evil Lord Drakon is what he's called, but he has the combination powers of the Green Ranger and the White Ranger because it was the same actor that had all those powers. So
Right.
he is that guy. And all of these other Power Rangers from across time joined up to try to beat him. You can do that in this game, but you can't then carry on the progress. It doesn't matter what happens if you win or lose. You won't revisit that plot. So in order for the Power Rangers game to have that kind of thing, you just buy a new expansion that comes with new characters and you play the new missions that come in that box. Okay, fine. There are missions in the game, but most of the time it's a sandbox experience where you're just a Power Ranger and you're flipping over random cards that tell you which boss you're fighting.
Right.
It's not a bad experience, but it is a different experience from the Turtles where you have a comic book that tells you literally here's what is happening in the game you're playing.
Right.
And the choices that you make, you look at a flowchart. Did you rescue this guy in 3 turns? Yes. Okay, cool. Good ending. Was it more than 3 turns? Okay, bad ending. Choose your own adventure.
I will say we won that game of
Yeah.
the Power Rangers, but
Came pretty close.
it did come kind of close.
Yeah, because you lose. There's only one way to win, and that's to defeat the main boss, who in our case was Lord Zed. The ways that you lose is if too many areas get overrun by monsters.
There's 4 of them.
There's only 4, and at the end of the game, we had 3 of the 4 overrun. Or if a Power Ranger gets knocked out, which is he takes damage and can't block it by discarding cards, you can let that happen 3 times, and we let it happen once or twice. So
I think Troy died twice.
it was difficult,
maybe
but I think it
twice.
really helped us that we focused on anytime one of the monsters of the week came out, instead of just the foot soldiers, we went hard at those guys.
And one thing
because they come back if you don't defeat them.
Right. Well, and one thing that I didn't like so much about the game is how you got what I would consider the cool parts of it, how you got the actual robot part of our giant robot theme, was you had to kill 6 of the putties, the foot soldier guys, and then it was a random draw card that went to someone random. So it didn't matter that they fought in that fight or not. They could have 3 of them based on how it shuffled, and you could have none.
Yeah.
So I didn't love that as much.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted everyone to get one once you reach those 6, or everyone to get something once you reach them versus one person. I thought that was a little unbalanced, but
And I do think that
minor.
It says that it's 2 to 5 plus players because you can have the 6th ranger. Here's the thing, guys. Don't ever play under 5 players. If you're playing at 2 players, the rules are really weird. 3 and 4 players, it's also not great. You really have to play this with either 5 players or 6 players if you're playing with the extra ranger. Do not play the solo rules. They're not great. The 2-player game, it works, but you have multiple people being controlled by the same player. So like, okay, I'm the blue ranger and the green ranger, and it doesn't really work. Just giving everybody their own ranger and having a full 5-player team, like in the show, is really where this game is good.
I would agree. So that is Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid from Renegade Game Studios. The next couple of games we're going to very briefly talk about, I have not played either of them,
Well,
but I was familiar with
Mechs,
them.
then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can do the ones that you only know about a little bit.
Okay. Well, then Tiny Epic Mechs from Gamelin Games.
I know I'm switching it up on you here.
Yep.
After I agreed that was an okay order.
That's fine. So Tiny Epic Mechs is from Gamelin Games. It's one of they've got the Tiny Epic series. And I should throw in there, if you're not familiar with the Tiny Epic games, none of them, the only thing they have in common with each other is they're called Tiny Epic.
They're in a small box with a lot of game in that small box.
Oh my God. Like,
they all are different games. Like, one's a worker placement game, one's a like dudes on a map game, one is a robot combat arena free-for-all game.
So the one we played was like,
There's a 4X game.
oh, the story behind this one is that what is it? Future?
Yeah, it's the future, and sports combat has turned into
robots.
I mean, this is what would really happen in real life.
Oh yeah.
This is legitimately a real life scenario. Okay, we've got giant robots. What do we do with them? I mean, have you watched BattleBots, John D?
Yeah.
This is a natural progression. Like, okay, well now
I can be in the robot suit. So it's basically kind of an arena, dudes on a map kind of game. Originally, you might think, like, getting into it, you might think, oh, I want to go and battle. I want to battle. Honestly, you can probably win the game and not battle, or not at least not win win a battle the whole game.
Yeah, because there's a lot of area control stuff that you can do.
Yeah, and so I basically went all in on the area control. Jared went all in more on the
getting the giant robot. Attack John D for points.
And I thought I was going to get destroyed because I lost every battle that we were in, but I was only 2 points behind at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I legitimately could have won that game. So you get points for all of the mines and turrets that you have deployed in areas.
Yeah.
I think if I would have had, I had 2 that if I'd had one more turn, I would have gotten at least one more turret or mine out again, because Jared exploded them, so they'd come back to me. I would have won the game if I would have had another turret out.
Yeah, there's 6 rounds. You do some programming. You take your cards that have arrows for movement and actions, and you like do the programming, and then you reveal them and resolve them. So you can move and collect resources, or drop a mine, or a turret, or purchase an upgrade card, or power up to go from your like pilot form to being in a mech suit, and then again get into the giant robot once you're in that.
I have to point out that this game actually
oh,
has.
yeah.
So this is my favorite part of the
You
game.
go in it.
There's actually, you have little meeples that you're playing, and there's then a little mech suit that you put your meeple into, and then there's a robot suit that you put your dude into if he gets into the giant robot. There's a there are actually little tiny weapons for every single
when
weapon you get in the game, and you
equip
them on your little dude. And it made the game a little fiddly, but it was 100% worth it because it took a decent experience of a game anyway and like ramped that up to like, I want to play this again. These robots are so adorable. Yeah. So I fell in love with it even before I learned how to play because I was like, oh my God, look at these little tiny like weapons. And my dude goes in this suit. So yeah, I have to say that if you are big into like fun components for a game, definitely check this one out because the components are just awesome.
Combat's pretty easy too. Basically, you just go back and forth until someone runs out of weapons.
Yeah.
You'll resolve the damage that the weapons do. They have damage indicators on them. And then if you go, okay, well, I still have 1 health. I'm not like knocked out of the combat, but I don't have any weapons. So I have to flee from the combat. And that means the other person wins. So I was in the giant robot pretty quickly, like third turn.
Yep.
Second or third turn. And when you're in the giant robot, you have 11 health. So I was like, well, I'm just
going to stay in the robot.
I'm just going to stay in the robot and keep attacking John D because I have way more health than she does.
Yeah. I never died, but...
I did once to your mine, which all that did was knock me out of the giant
robot,
mech, and then I
got back into
it. I anticipated it,
and I didn't try to get the giant mech because like I said, I went all in on the area control.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be that was a legitimate strategy. So
I'm not a big fan of take that mechanics in games.
I love
but the way that this one did it, I think was really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Hiding it under the guise of giant robot fighting.
Yeah. I mean, I love take that games anyway, but this one, you go into this one, it's not like necessarily a stab people in the back game. It's just you go into this game, it's a battle game. You are going to be attacking other players.
Yeah.
If you do not like games where you are at odds with the other players, this one's probably not for you. But if you like the components, get it anyway. You can play with the little meeples.
There's a rock, paper, scissors, like a reverse rock, paper, scissors mechanic in the way the weapons are effective against each other.
How is it reverse?
Well, because on the chart it had the arrows of which were more effective against what. So if I use one and then you use the one that would have been more effective if I had used it before you, the chart goes backwards.
Right, but it was still pretty much rock, paper, scissors. Like
it is, but if I use
this is effective. Pokemon
if I'm
too.
attacking, then it's regular
not
rock, paper,
very
scissors.
Effective.
If you're attacking, if you're reacting to my attack, it's reverse rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That was a really cool mechanic. I had not played any of the Tiny Epic games until earlier this year, like during Origins.
Mm-hmm.
I played my first one, and now I've played 2. And I have thoroughly enjoyed both of them. So now, I at some point in the future, we're planning on doing a Tiny Epic Games episode where we're just going to talk, because there's enough of the games there that we can do a whole episode on them. So, and before I was just like, oh, this will be fun. Now I'm legitimately looking forward to it because now 2 of the games I found to be very enjoyable. The other one I played was Tiny Epic. It's the space one.
Galaxies.
Mm-hmm. And both of them have been thoroughly enjoyable experiences. So
yeah, they're all very different games. The way they play, it is a really cool little system that they've made for themselves.
Yeah. So
we will talk more about these later.
We will be talking about more in this episode when we get to Kickstarter. So
yeah, that's true. Okay, now we can talk about GKR. So I've played this a lot. I made John D watch a video.
And I did watch the video.
Kat, have you ever looked at it? I know you've seen it because it's taking up a lot of space in that room.
Yeah, I have seen it. I've seen it be played. I have looked at the rules. I have not physically played the game.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, up until last night, I did not think I ever wanted to play it. I didn't think it was accessible for me. But then Wait,
it
as
just
we were-
looks like a lot.
So, and as we were
does.
learning Robotech, and we can already tell, I was 100% invested in that game. And Jared just looks at me, he goes, Johnny, if you can learn this game, you can play GKR.
Yeah, yeah.
Easy. I agree. I think it looks like a lot. So there's lots of figures. The models are really, really cool.
Lots of cards.
Pre-painted figures.
Yeah.
Oh, they're beautiful. And it looks like a lot. It has, what is it called? Table presence.
Yeah.
Where, you
3D
see something.
buildings.
Yeah, you see something and you're like, that looks really cool. I wonder what that is. That looks real complicated. It's not. But I absolutely want to play it. So maybe we'll play it sometime.
when I watched the video, the thing that I found interesting is
Oh yeah,
usually
we should set this up. It's GKR, Heavy
yeah.
Hitters, Giant Killer Robots. It's from Weta Workshops. Yes, that Weta Workshops, the one that made all of the special effects in the Lord of the Rings movies and District 9 and all that other crap that they do. Okay, Johnny, go ahead.
So, the thing that stuck out to me when I watched the video was usually if somebody says, I'm playing, this is like a miniatures game, and I think about like War Machine or something, and I immediately am like, no, I'm out. And this one, you could put kind of in that genre of like War Machine. And in fact, the video I watched even said, if you like War Machine, you'll like this one, but this one is more accessible. It's more simple. It's easier to learn and play than something like a War Machine.
The rules are much more simple.
So even though it's a miniatures game, and usually I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to play a miniatures game, this one, I think I could probably play it and have a good time.
So the story of the game is it's the future. It's the near future, not the far future. But advertising has become out of control and more of part of people's lives than it should be. So think about like
You're playing as like evil corporations, right?
they're not evil, Johnny. Think about like Super Bowl ads.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're just playing as corporations.
But the Super Bowl has ended and now has been replaced with giant robot combat. So you
I
want
would
your
enjoy
ads
that
to be
far more than I would enjoy
Yeah.
Super Bowl.
You want your ads to be viewed by more people. So there's a lot of abandoned cities in Earth because it's like kind of post-apocalyptic or mid-apocalyptic. And the goal is to advertise for your corporation enough that your company gets the salvage rights to scrap the city and use all the precious metals. So the way you do that is through robot combat, as you do. I punch you. I'm standing next to this building. You are distracted because I punched you. I'm going to spray paint my corporation's logo on this building. And functionally, the way that works is it has little billboards that you slot into the top of the 3D buildings. And if you ever have 4 of them on the building collapses because you have scrapped it. I don't know.
Yeah. A way to
you
show
get
that you've
points.
claimed that
Yeah,
building.
but you get the points
Yeah.
for it. And the way that combat works is there's a little bit of deck building that you do ahead of time. Like constructed deck building like Magic the Gathering, not like Dominion.
Right.
And you pick what weapons you want to use for that game. There's primary weapons, secondary weapons. There's jump ability. There's like a big like satellite weapon that you can use or like a nuke or something like that. And I think it's a point buy system that you use to program it, or maybe it's just you just flat out pick what you want. I don't remember. I haven't done a lot of the customizing. I've just pretty much stuck to the recommended since that's the more balanced one.
And I like that they have that. Like
Yeah.
you can customize it
Yeah.
and look through and specialize in something, or just use their recommended build
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you can play right away without having to research a bunch of stuff to make the best deck.
Yeah. So this was a Kickstarter game that we talked about quite a while ago. And I have been told by one of the heads of development or whatever, she always goes to, she works at their booth at Gen Con. They have a few more factions planned. So the first game came with 4 factions. And then last year at Gen Con, they released 2 more. So they have at least 2 more factions in the work. And she told me this year that they may be looking at even more content in the near future. So I'm excited for that.
I'm also excited, but
A storage
this game
solution would be
is-
good.
A storage solution would be great, and it's expensive. I
It
mean,
is-
it's a
it
pricey
is.
game. They're very pretty models. They're pre-painted.
The suggested retail for the base game is $100, and that gets you 4 players worth of content. It gets you of the heavy hitters. It gets you 3 support vehicles for each faction. It gets you a deck of cards for each of those factions, and the board and the 3D buildings.
Right.
So there's a lot there for the $100.
But I think if you don't know, if you haven't played it, I feel like personally $100 might be a little much to ask.
Yeah.
For a game that you don't know if you're going to love or not. But if you like miniature games, it's
there's a lot
one.
of strategy here.
If you like strategy games, it's a good one. If you like games that have models and miniatures and...
Oh, so you guys are talking me out of playing this now.
The deck of cards that you use is your life, so you can press yourself harder and use more cards, but that means you have less life.
So that's kind of Power Ranger style.
Yeah,
Yes,
you can burn
similar.
through your weapons very quickly. But then if you attack me, I have less to defend with.
Right.
So there is some strategy there of deciding, like, okay, do I need to be conservative with my weapons, or do I need to just go all out and try to blow up John D, try to blow up this building? You get attack bonuses for flanking. You get defense
If I
bonuses
play
for
this
hiding
ever,
behind
I
a
will get
building.
destroyed because I am terrible at miniatures games. I'm also terrible at strategy.
This isn't like a brag or anything, but I have never lost at this game. Now, that's not to say that you won't completely destroy me the first time we play.
It would be beginner's luck because I'm
could
terrible
be.
at strategy.
I
so-
strategize the heck out of this game. It takes me a really long time to do my turn because I'm
Oh,
like, okay,
God.
well, let me think
Right.
about what I want to do
So is
here.
it like chess with robots?
Kind
Kind
of,
of.
but no.
Yeah, I would say it is something where if you're not great at having other people's turns take a long time, I'm not. I tend to get bored
I get lost
and then walk
I'm
away.
then I'm playing with my phone and then well, I mean, we've all said a million times and I think we need a t-shirt that says
I agree.
this. If you don't know whose turn it is,
It's Johnny's.
it's mine.
Yes.
But there's some different game modes here. You can do like a capture the flag style,
Right.
which is what the normal game is, where you're tagging the buildings. You can win by being the last man standing. So you've destroyed all the other robots. There's like a cooperative teams play that you can do. There's a lot of ways to play the game.
And those are all in the base game, aren't they? Yeah. So that is nice.
There's a fully cooperative against the AI that was one of the like Kickstarter bonus
Add-on
expansions.
bonus
Right.
things.
And I don't know if they've made that available for purchase outside of like conventions. If they have extra stock, I'm sure that they will sell it to you. But I don't think that it has a retail release. Which is kind of a shame because some of the stuff that was in the Kickstarter add-ons, like the plastic 3D buildings to replace the cardboard ones, kind of cool. They also released the same robots, but unassembled and unpainted, so you could customize
you could do
them.
it, which I like that.
Yeah,
I really
that is
like
pretty
painting
cool.
miniatures. And I think that would be super, super fun to assemble and paint them. But
But I think at some
I got
point,
some
painted are
miniatures
really
you can
pretty.
paint for me.
yeah,
I also have tons of miniatures that I can paint, in all my free time.
at some point, John D, I think you should play this, even if you say like, "Oh, that was only okay." I don't think you'll say that. I think you'll say, "That was pretty cool."
Unlike the next one you're going to talk about, because nothing about this game appeals
Right.
to me.
That's fair. It didn't appeal to me either until I played it.
I'm kind of shoehorning this one in here because
He
I'm
really
a
is.
huge fan of
And
this.
it's not really giant robots, is it?
It is.
It
It is.
is.
So let me set the stage here. It is the far future. Warfare has gotten to the point where things have gotten out of control. Basically, they have self-aware 300-foot tall tanks roaming around. Because, like we've got drones now. What if we, instead of putting those drones in unmanned airplanes, we put them in gigantic tanks that are nuke-proof? Well, that's scary. Oh no, they're sentient. Ogre was the first
so it's
game.
Skynet and
Yeah.
Skynet in a tank.
Ogre was the first game that Steve Jackson Games published back in 1977.
Yeah.
A lot of people say it does not hold up well, and I do tend to agree with that. It does not really hold up well. That doesn't mean it's not fun. It is a very fun game. Yes, there are many, many better war games. A lot of better games that are in this like dudes on a map style. But there's something really satisfying about just having this massive tank rolling over. Just
See, like,
here's a
war
squadron of
games,
300 dudes
tanks,
coming at me.
War games, tanks, none of these things appeal to me.
It's a
at
very
all.
light game, though.
It
Like the rules are
is.
very light. If you read the rule book, it is every single rule that's in the game is very well explained. There's not a lot of game in this game.
Well, that doesn't make me want
I
to play it
think-
either.
I think it maybe took you 20 to 30 minutes maybe to go over everything with me that I felt comfortable to like play it. And I was playing as the ogre.
Right, because it's
so-
a lot easier to
Right.
teach that.
So you're kind of playing as one of, well, at least in the mode
Or
that we played.
the basic scenario gives one player a force, a set of infantry and some armored vehicles, and a command post that you have to defend. The other player has only one unit, but it's a giant 300-foot tall tank with nukes. So it's an even fight.
Sure. But I think that if you, like we did, had somebody that knew the game and, you know, knew mechanics, knew the different units and everything that you could play as, you played as that. And then I only really had to learn the ogre and kind of what the other things did, but I
Yeah.
didn't really have to learn every single thing that every other
Yeah.
thing did.
You just had
ever.
to learn enough
I just
of
had
what
to
my
go,
guys
I
did
need to
to
get
fight
over
them.
there. How's the best way to do that?
Right.
I did not win. I did not do the best way, but it was fun. I liked it.
I'm sorry. It is the near future. It's 2085 AD.
Ah.
So, uh-oh.
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 But now, so you said this was the first Steve Jackson game,
Yeah.
but it has different, it's been redone.
Yeah. The new one
right?
is the 6th
like
edition, based
editions,
on
thank
a
you.
very, very successful, like, monetarily almost ruining the company successful Kickstarter because they overpromised and overdelivered, which is good. I'd rather them
Sure.
do that than overpromise and underdeliver. The Ogre Designers Edition, which is the Kickstarter version of Ogre 6th Edition, has a Team Lift logo because it's like 80 pounds worth of game.
It's insane.
You can get like a normal game box version that comes with what you would need to play the intro scenario and a few other scenarios. But to get the full experience out of this game, I hope you have a shelf that can hold this game because I don't.
No. And again, I think it's just a lot of game.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that can be very overwhelming to people. Again, it's not, it's a light game in mechanics.
Yeah.
It's not a light game in
In weight.
weight.
In physical weight.
Or in how much is
How much real
there.
estate it takes up.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
What I would say is if this sounds interesting at all to you, do not go out and buy the game. There's a video game adaptation that actually is amazing. That's I think it's on Steam. Go check that out. I think that you will learn everything you need to know about the game from that. And it's a much lower entry fee than trying to buy the game.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have to say about Ogre. I will talk about it more at some point once I teach it to Jondi, because I think she could learn it. I don't know that she would have a fun time, but, you know, new
So far, there's
experiences.
only one game that I flat out refuse to play. So
Yeah, Space Movers.
no, I don't refuse to play that
What? So you're telling me that it's Twilight Imperium?
one. Yes, it is.
No,
Oh.
Jondi.
Although I can say that, but he's still never gotten me to play the game. But
I don't want to play a game that generally
One day we will, I'm
is
sure.
5 or 6 hours and oftentimes can be 7 hours long.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that
No.
if it's
Yeah, but
snowing
you're doing stuff the
outside
whole time.
and I've got hot cocoa and
For
I'm
me,
in my PJs.
that's too
I'm fine
long
with
to
it.
invest in one game.
Hmm.
I'd rather do that than read a book. I know.
I would rather
controversial.
play a few different games.
That's
Like-
fair.
Okay.
But anyway, moving on.
Let's talk about a
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. Yep.
So now we get to go back and revisit Tiny Epic Games.
Yep.
So they currently have a Kickstarter up that is Tiny Epic Dinos.
A worker placement dino game on the go. Plays 1 to 4 dino ranging players in 45 minutes and is easy to learn and teach. It's Tiny Epic. That's what it says. It has over 70 dino meeples.
I love Dino Meeples.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I mean, that was partially why I ever even got into the Dinosaur Island, because I wanted the Dino Meeples. What would they be, like, Deeples?
Deeples?
I can't think of what they would be.
Okay.
Dinoples?
Oh, Dinopoles. But anyway, so it's probably, I'm guessing, a lot of game that fits into a tiny box.
Usually is. Usually, I will say this. If you ever get a Tiny Epic game and take it out of the box, pay real close attention to how you got it out of the box.
Yeah, it is a little difficult with some of them to get it back in there,
I
like
mean,
other games. But
if you look at the campaign and you look at the amount of real estate that this is going to take up on your table when you're playing the game, it's not a small game.
No,
It's
it's just in a small box.
which fits into their title. It's
Absolutely.
They're epic games that fit into a tiny box.
And quite honestly, I have bought a lot of quote unquote full-sized games that you open it up and it's like 52 cards and 3 meeples.
And you're like, why was this not in a small
Drives
box?
me
why
crazy.
is this a $50 game? What? Oh, because it has a board that's 11 inches. Oh, they couldn't have put it in a smaller. You will not have that with this game. You will
No.
go, how did this $25 game take up my 5-foot gaming table? I don't understand.
And I'm really, the price accessibility of these to get the Kickstarter like deluxe. I mean, $25 and you're going to get like the whole shebang.
You're getting a lot of games.
So that is another reason to say yay, Tiny Epic. If you like worker placements, resource management, this game is probably going to be for you. And it's had great reviews. All the reviews I've seen on it have been fantastic. And come on, it's Dinosaurs.
We got a secret sneak peek at Gen Con, and I was like, I want that right now, please.
So yeah, that's the Kickstarter you should check out this week.
Yeah, we'll have a link to that, or you can just find it yourself. I don't care.
Yep. So until next time.
No,
Kat,
John D, we have to
What?
plug everything.
Okay, we've
have to
already
plug.
talked for like over an hour.
We have to plug everything. If you ever want us to stop talking about give money to Children's Miracle Network hospitals, here's what you do. Go to our website, click on the Extra Life thing. If it's still there, it'll probably still be there because
There.
donations can be accepted up until the end of the year. So we'll leave that up after the actual event is over. We're raising money for Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's a Children's Miracle Network hospital. You can find all that information at the link on our website because John D's right. This is run a little bit long. But please do it. And if you don't want to do it, just spread the link. If you are like, I don't want to give money to that. I'm not asking you to give me money.
And we get it if you don't have money to spare.
But if
Absolutely.
We're not
you-
going to shame anybody for
Right.
not donating.
No.
But if all you do is send that link to one friend who maybe had a hospital experience as a child or whatever, I don't care. Just spread the link. Okay, that's it. Also, please go to our iTunes page and give us 300 stars. Thanks.
So until next time, Kat.
You can eat Chit and dice.
Eat Chit and Dice is an independent production of Swin Media and is distributed under a Creative Commons license. Attribution, non-commercial, share alike 4.0 international.